Isolation day 7. Hello everyone, I hope you're keeping well and looking after yourselves. At the start of recording these vlogs, I felt, and hopefully you felt when you watched it, that my gut feel was I was the only one in isolation. I was very concerned about myself and my situation. Clearly that has changed significantly, and now I assume that pretty much every type 1 and every type 2 person with diabetes is in isolation now. What I wanted to show you and what I wanted to explain to you was my history of having diabetes and being diabetic for 34 years, how it's affected my life, and the reason why I'm on the ketogenic diet now, and also why I'm going to move on to the whole food plant-based diet, and really try and log that. I'd like to give you a bit more background. So last time I explained in vlog number 1, actually, I explained that I was diabetic at the age of 8, diagnosed at the age of 8. And I went through school, I went through secondary school, and then I went to uni. And I left university in 1998, and I left with an accountancy and finance degree, which some of you may think is boring as hell, but I enjoyed maths, I enjoyed talking to people. It was quite a good mix for me. I worked really hard. My parents have never had very much money. We had a wonderful upbringing, my brother and I. My brother's called Dan, and he's 3 years younger than me. So I sit at a desk, push a pen around. My brother is the artist. He's the guy that comes to your house and builds a kitchen, builds a bathroom. He does plastering, he does decorating, he does all the stuff I couldn't ever dream about doing, and he does it amazingly. We have the same kind of work ethic, my brother and I, which we get from my dad. So my dad was a soldier. Originally, he finally retired probably 2 years ago from being a prison guard. He's an amazing man, and my brother and I love both him and my mum very much. We didn't have much as a family, but what we did have was a lot of love. We've always been pretty close. My dad is a introvert. He although when he has a drink, he can be the exact opposite at times. I left uni at the age of 21. I went on to and got a job with a medium-sized accountancy firm in Surrey. The accountancy firm was about 40th on the list of accountancy firms in the UK. It was a great grounding, got chucked straight into going out to clients and learning about accountancy. I then qualified as a chartered accountant in 2003, and I decided at that time, after a lot of work, to go and work for Morgan Stanley. So that was up in Canary Wharf in central London as a controller, financial controller, and I spent 2 years there with probably the most intelligent people I've ever worked with, an astounding group of people, but I couldn't handle the travel, to be honest. A big part of your life was spent sat on a phone, and for me, I missed the client contact, I missed the personal touch, and also, as I said, the travel was killing me. Travel from Surrey into Waterloo, and then the Jubilee line from Waterloo to Canary Wharf was an absolute killer. So on weekends I was zonked. I was out of it. So what happened from there is I got in contact with an old manager that at my original firm that I worked for, and we decided to form a partnership and start an accountancy firm. So we did so. So I left my job. The same week as I got married, I left my job, and I went on to honeymoon, and then I joined with my first business partner and started an accountancy firm, and I spent the next 6 or 7 years there. What you realise when you work for yourself and you've got other people working for you, and that was when we had my daughter, was my first child. What you realise very quickly is if you're not working, you're not bringing money through the door, you can't eat. And it's one of the best things and the worst things about running a business is, and once you've done it, you never forget it. You can never leave and go back to another job and feel like, do you know what, this is a job, I know I'm going to get paid at the end of the week or the end of the month, it'll be fine. You always have in the back of your mind that feeling of, if I don't earn money, if I don't work hard enough and I don't earn money, I will not be able to eat and I will not be able to feed my family. So completely different mentality, worked very hard for a good number of years. And what I realized then is there is a huge correlation between being able to work hard and being able to be on it all the time and your health. It pushed me down the road of really taking account of my diabetes and really taking account of what I'm eating and my blood sugars. I used to take my blood quite often. I'd make sure I eat very well, but I was eating a standard diet that anyone would. So for breakfast, I'd have cereal. I'd go into work and I'd have coffee, probably have a couple of biscuits. For lunch, I would have a sandwich and perhaps a bag of crisps. I'd come home. I would train at that time. So I would go to the gym and then I would come home and I'd have dinner. And dinner would be anything that you could think of: sausage and mash. It would be fish and chips. Sometimes we'd have takeaways 2 or 3 times a week, but then we'd have spaghetti bolognese and we'd have other food like this, all high carb, standard diet for standard UK diet really for a normal person. And I just deal with the blood sugars. Was my bloods well controlled? No, I think is the answer. Was it horrendous? No, it wasn't. It wasn't out of control, but it wasn't very, very good. I would have highs, I would have lows. I'd get a lot of that rebounding. So I'd find, and I've always been this way anyway, I struggle somewhat. When it goes too high, I overcorrect and I get frustrated with the fact that my bloods do not reduce quick enough. That's still with me and always has been, to be honest. So I have a daughter now who's 12 years old and I have a son who is just 9. When my son was probably 3 or 4 years old, I really, really struggled to control my bloods. I found it impossible. I could. And subsequently, with a bit of hindsight, the way I kind of explain it now is, I think what was happening was I was eating very late. I was working quite hard. I was eating late in the day, and I was getting the dawn phenomenon. Now, for those of you that haven't experienced the dawn phenomenon, so I'll read what this is from the diabetes.co.uk website. I've got it here. And it says, the dawn phenomenon is a term given to increase in blood sugar in the morning caused by the body's release of certain hormones. It's relatively common amongst diabetics. How is it caused? Dawn effect occurs when hormones, cortisol, glucagon, are released by the body, causing the liver to release glucose. The dawn effect therefore describes abnormally high early morning increase in blood sugars. Usually abnormally high blood glucose levels occur between 8 and 10 hours after going to sleep. So what I was finding was, I wouldn't eat breakfast. I would eat quite late at night. That was the problem, I think, subsequently. But I wouldn't eat breakfast. and then my bloods would just be uncontrollable. They go very, very high, and it wouldn't seem to matter how much insulin I would give. It just wouldn't go down, and it would take 3, 4, 5 hours. So I'd be getting to lunchtime or even 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and my bloods were still at 8, 9. And when I say high, they were probably anywhere between 8 and 12, which for me was high, but it just wouldn't go down. And I became just really frustrated with that. And so what I'd do more often than not is I'd overcorrect. So I'd give myself some insulin, I'd wait half an hour, see if it was going down. If it wasn't, I'd give myself more. And it then got me into what I call a roller coaster or rebound. So I would hit the high, it would take some time, then I'd wallop straight back down. And then I'd eat, and then it'd go wallop straight back up. And then I'd take some more insulin, wallop straight back down. And for the life of me, I could not get on top of this. And it was doing me in. I was still managing to function in so much as I was managing to work, but I was in an awful state. And this coincided with a period where my blood glucose meter was playing up, and so it was telling me I was higher than what I actually was. So I was taking more insulin on top, and I just had a period of about a month where my blood sugars were so low. I was needing quite a bit of help. I was needing help. So yeah, it was a really sad, difficult time for me. So what I decided to do was research an insulin pump. And I knew about insulin pumps, but I knew very little about it. Because my HbA1c, which is your 3 month blood glucose average, wasn't too bad, I didn't qualify for an insulin pump. The problem with an average is, if I'm 2 all the time, and I'm 9 all the time, so low and high, what I consider low and high, the average is 5.5, 6, isn't it? 5.5. So actually, it means diddly squat to me, and I don't like it as a gauge on its own. And as the Mastering Diabetes guys say, Cyrus and Robbie, there's so many other things that you need to take into consideration to judge whether you are actually well controlled or not. And I knew for a very long period of time that I wasn't well controlled. What I did was I wrote a letter to the hospital to ask if I could have an insulin pump. It was a pretty heartfelt letter, because I was told categorically that as a 38-year-old man, I didn't qualify, and my HbA1c was outside of they would need people having real problems that they could identify to be able to qualify for the pump. So I wrote a letter, I'd made phone calls, and I basically just begged and pleaded for an insulin pump, and the nurses and the doctor very kindly agreed for me to have an insulin pump. A big part of that was also that I recognised the food was a big problem as well. Eating late, not the blood glucose going like this, the food was also an issue. So what I did at that time was try to do some research. So I read Dr. Bernstein's Diabetes Solution book, which I've got here. It's a sizable book. And I also read Think Like a Pancreas by Gary Shiner. And it's both of those books were really eye-opening for me, because I hadn't spent the time to research what an insulin pump could do and how it could help, and secondly also what Dr. Bernstein is fully behind a low carb diet. And the reason for the low carb, and I get this, is if I'm having problems with blood sugars doing this, and you don't eat a lot of carbs, if you can control it, your blood sugars should do this. So in my mind, suddenly it became clear, well, actually, in order to control it, I need to go low carb. Okay, so that's probably enough. I'll talk about talking about my history. What I'll do is I'll talk a bit more about the ketogenic, the reason I went onto ketogenic, and Dr. Bernstein and the theory behind it tomorrow. But what I did promise that I'd do is give you what I've eaten today and how I've been going. So you can see the form in front of you. At 8 o'clock this morning, throughout the night my blood was slightly low. The pump actually switched off a couple of times, which it does. The CGM allows it to auto-correct, so it will switch off and it will restart when your blood's within the range, or hopefully not out of range. So it did that. That's fine to a certain extent, except clearly I need to track it a bit more to be able to ensure that my blood doesn't go low overnight. So I took my blood sugar at 8 o'clock this morning, and it was 7.4, which in the grand scheme of things, that's not too bad at all. So I took a correction dose of 0.425 millimoles of insulin, and I then continued working for until 2 o'clock. And at that time, my blood was 4.5. I did have a couple of cups of coffee, decaf coffee in that time as well. At 2 o'clock, I had an omelette. So I didn't actually have breakfast today, which I should do, but I didn't because I had tons of work on, and I decided, you know what, I'm fine. I'll just grab something later. I in fact waited till 2 o'clock to grab something. So at 2 o'clock, I had an omelette. Now I do struggle somewhat with judging the so Dr. Bernstein and some of the other books that I've read say that you should count the protein in the food as carbs. So an egg generally has 5 grams of carbs. So what I've done is I've said these eggs weren't huge, so I've given 3. It was a 4 egg omelette, 4 small egg omelette, so I've gone 14 grams for that, and I took 0.925 units of insulin for that. at 2 o'clock. You can see my blood sugar went up somewhat and went to 7.4, back up to 7.4, and that was taken at 8 o'clock in the evening. And I then decided to go for a workout, and that's obviously a workout. I say go for a workout. It was downstairs in my house, and I did the Thenx workout, which is, I'll go through it. It's an app that I subscribe to. It's calisthenics, but they also do lots of different just programs for working out. So at the moment, I'm working my way through the beginner program, and today I did a whole body workout: jumping jacks, mountain climbers, incline push-ups, Australian push-ups, jump chin-ups, pike push-up and holds, squat lunge, burpees and chair sit-ups. So I did that for about 20 odd minutes. You go through it 3 times, it's not too much, and then I went for a run. So or I say a run, I went for a plod around the road in the darkness when no one else is about, which is good. So I get out of the house. That's my one allowable time out of the house today, and it all went fine. I was fine, and then after that I came back, had a shower, sorted myself out, and then had my dinner. So for dinner I had chicken in a broth with cauliflower mash and leek. Really nice, wholesome food. The carbs were 20 grams for the meal. It's very low carb. It wasn't a lot of cauliflower mash, and I ate at 9 o'clock. So today I've had 34 grams of carbs, and as I'm sat here at 11:33, my blood sugar is, interestingly, oh blimey, 4.7, and you can see it says suspended before low. So let me show you the graph for the day. So that's the 12-hour graph. You can see mostly it's within range, and what I also did was I took a picture probably half an hour ago, or a little bit more ago, and I've been within range 99% of the time today, which in theory is excellent, in theory. But you got to bear in mind, I've had 34 grams of carbs. There's probably a whole lot of fat within the chicken and the omelette. You know, omelette's cooked in fat and what have you. What I would say, and what I want to get onto another time, is talking about insulin resistance. And at the moment, if I have too much, so if I were to have a chocolate biscuit, my blood sugar would massively increase, and that's because I don't have the insulin resistance that I need to have. Today I did the exercise that I wanted to do. It's a start of the exercise that I want to do. There's a lot more I need to do, and it's a big part of staying healthy and for your insulin to work efficiently and work well. Exercise is of paramount importance to your mindset, to your outlook. It's a bloody break from the desk, which is amazing, which I definitely need, and not to sit at the desk for 14 hours and just drink coffee after coffee. So it was a good day. It was a better day, which is nice. Bloods have been in range, which is also nice as well, but we'll get on to the reasons why I want to change my diet and probably cause a few problems for myself in the short term. Is for the longer term goals. So I hope everyone's well. I'll catch up with you tomorrow. What I haven't said actually for any of these videos is I'm obviously posting one of these videos every day. So if you look below, you should be able to see the other videos. Have a watch. Please give them a like if you like them, and leave me some comments. I haven't had very many comments yet, but then again, I haven't had very many people that have watched this. I'm sure people are really seriously busy with dealing with their own families, and they're probably tired as hell. So if you do watch it and you do have something to say or something to contribute, please do so. And of course, feel free to subscribe. I'd quite like to get a few subscribers. Thanks very much.